Hi guys, welcome to another classic movie review. Today we'll be reviewing Seven.
The movie stars Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and Gwyneth Paltrow.
So we follow detectives Somerset and Mills as they take down a new serial killer who is modeling his kills after the 7 deadly sins. We follow this killer's path of tyranny and try to answer the call of who it is. So we're going to get into the review today, and we're going to start us off with Cameron.
Yep, so never watched this movie. I knew that famous scene about what's in the box. Never knew sort of what it was revolving around in terms of why and how and what they're all doing there. But my God, this movie was chilling, captivating, and just left me a bit speechless, to be honest. I thought the first thing I noticed was the soundtrack. It was just so gripping and chilling, and it just how it starts off. It just really, the flow in this movie, because it's set over 7 days, I think it is, and just the way it just chugs along on the story, and just every murder scene and everything feels fresh, different, but all coming together. It just really blew me away. I mean, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, their chemistry really surprised me, to be honest. I don't picture them together much, and that just blew me away on this big screen. But yeah, and just the standout scene for me was Morgan Freeman laughing in the apartment. I've never imagined I can't recall ever picturing Morgan Freeman like belly laugh like that, and the whole cinema was laughing with him because he's just so inviting to laugh with. But yeah, just the way it was written and the story, how it was told, was really, I really enjoyed like the aspect of it being about the 7 deadly sins, and just the way how they just sort of deciphering it, but the killer was always one step ahead, and just the ending really surprised me as well. And just, yeah, I really loved this movie. John?
Yeah, I've seen this film many times before, so it's not my first time watching this one. Being the 30th anniversary, it's still impressive how well it holds up and how it's not really aged, in my opinion. I think that both detectives that played by Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, they're really good in terms of comparing the old, weathered, and experienced detective pitted with the young rookie who, yes, he's experienced, but not in this new environment. And you see that throughout the film. I think the writing is really strong in this, and the actual killing is really quite creative, but also something that I didn't see coming from beat to beat. So I think that it's a really enjoyable film in terms of not being spoiled about A, who the killer is, but B, what's going to happen next. You know that he's following the sins, but you don't know in which order they're going to happen. You don't really know that until the second sin murder is committed. So it's interesting to see the way in which they fold out. I really don't have any issues with the film in terms of its runtime. I think it's quite good. The ending was really captivating. Pretty much from start to finish, I think that these detectives, they really reflect the kind of environment they're in. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think even in terms of the writing, I really did like things where the chief is at the desk and Morgan Freeman's explaining these sins to him, and the phone rings and he just picks it up and he's like, "Oh, this isn't even my desk," and just hangs it back up. They're small things, or even when they're shaving their chests, putting on the microphones at the latter part of the film, and they're talking about workers' comp. They're small things. I appreciate them, and it makes the film more feel lived in. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it and thoroughly interested in the whole plot. Moo?
So this movie is in my top 3. All 3 movies are surprisingly David Fincher. And this is my first time actually seeing it in a bigger screen in a cinema. So this is like a whole different experience for me. Like Cameron pointed out, I've noticed the soundtrack is very good, but in the cinema you feel it, the eerie feeling you get even when the starting credits were like going on, and they were so chilling. It was such an eerie feeling. I never got that feeling ever, even I've seen this movie so many times. And like when Brad Pitt is being introduced in the movie, and you see him like a flamboyant, he's a rookie, and he's checking out someone's butt or something, and you think he'll be that sort of character, but then Morgan Freeman would be polar opposite, and they are. But then you meet Morgan Freeman gets invited to their house, and you feel look at different aspect of Brad Pitt, and so their chemistry and the overarching like arc of how the characters from one point goes to another, and how the movie itself like changes them. It is done so well. And let's talk about the seven sins. So first time when I watched, I didn't know what seven is. So when they revealed it's about the sins, my mind was blown away. I was like, this is so clever. It's in the title, and still you can't tell. And it's spoiler, so basically Kevin Spacey is the killer, but it's not about who is committing these crimes. It's about the vibe of the whole city. We don't know which city it is. It has never been named. And even if you look at the cop cars or anything, it's always says police. We don't know what city we are in. And it makes it even more, I feel more like scared because could happen here, could happen anywhere. That's the best part of this movie. We just don't know where it is, and the whole city is a big character in the movie, and that's why it is one of the best movies ever. Um, the box scene. I think even though I know it's gonna come, I had the goosebumps all over my body because it is one of those scenes you just don't want it to be true because even her head is there, you just don't want it to be true. But all the reaction Brad Pitt gives, I always just feel so bad. And like after the movie, after the finish the movie, and like one of our friends asked, like, what would you do if you were in that situation? I will do what Brad Pitt did. I will have to do because even though the killer would win at the end, but still you can't just let him go. And Kevin Spacey, even though he's like in 10 minutes or whatever timing, he is so menacing. Every time I look at him, even in other movie, I just get the eerie feeling. Whatever happened like afterwards, probably, so that's why. But the feeling he gave, I think no other actor could have given. And I don't know. Like I can't, even though I've watched it so many times, I just can't appreciate that movie. I can't share my thoughts enough because this is a masterpiece with peace in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that Kevin Spacey was now that we're on to the spoilers part, Kevin Spacey was great as a psychopath killer. I mean, he played Kaiser Soze in the
Usual
Usual
Suspects,
Suspects,
yeah.
so I know that he doesn't miss when he gets these roles, and keeping the name off all the marketing material and even the intro of the film was a
Yeah.
great way to not make you think. There's really nothing that gives it away, and even the only thing that would only give it to you if you've seen it before is the photographer in the
Yeah.
scene.
I think it's yeah.
That's only if you're listening for the voice, because the voice
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
such a minute thing. Only if you're listening for it and you really recognize it. It's not as distinct as like Jeff Goldblum kind of voice, and so that's what makes it hidden quite well. But yeah, I think the character is just so intelligent too. Even the way that he handles himself, he's so calm and collected. The only time we really see him slip up is that running chasing scene with
Yeah.
Brad Pitt, but even that he comes up with the upper hand. So
And
it's-
he does. Like at the end, we see. I don't know if it was his original plan, but we don't know. He probably.
well, he
got something-
faces death. He's
Yes,
like, and it's,
that
it's
was
something
his
that's
like
Yeah.
at the end he wanted that. But I'm saying is like he wanted to maybe Brad Pitt came in, so maybe he had to. He says that he
Yeah.
had to cut his plan short. Sorry.
Yeah, just to harp back to the scenery thing. I think it was, like Min said, the scenery was its own character. So every time, from what I can recollect from when we're in the city, it's very dark, gloomy, always rainy. And then we get to the final scene and we're in this barren land. It's sun shining, but it's just probably the darkest scene out of all of them,
Yeah.
but in the brightest scenery. So I think like Moon said, it's its own character. So just that sort of diversity that the movie has just blew me away even more so.
Yeah, the setting's good. Not knowing where it is, even
Yeah,
better.
really.
Could be a Chicago-looking place, could be a New York-looking place. It's always dreary, it's always rainy. But I think one thing that we haven't talked too much about would be Gwyneth Paltrow's character.
Hmm.
She's not too large in the film, but she's I don't know if this is the right term, but the ray of sunshine of this film. She's the person that seems to be happy. The things she's trying to make the best of. You see it in the apartment. They've got the subway going through. And Morgan Freeman does find it quite funny, but she's, you know, these two detectives. They don't want to really. They're at odds ends, and she kind of brings them together in a sense. I know the case is bringing them together as well, but you know, having them over for dinner, humanizing one to each other. It's a nice connecting piece, I think,
Yeah, when
from
the
her.
when they like Morgan Freeman like enter the house and he introduces his Somerset, yeah, and she asks like, "What's your actual name?" Yeah,
Yeah.
so William. So yeah, like humanizes them. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was such a nice, simple touch, but such a nice touch. So that humanizes them.
It was the first time that we see him be a bit softer, a
Yes.
bit more
Yeah,
human.
he's always seemed a bit grumpy, like having enough of his, but we learn about him. Like even like she finds out like when she's pregnant, so she calls him
Yeah.
and wants to know what should I do? Should I do? And that adds at the end, and because when he reveals that she was pregnant, and
Yeah. Even more layers.
yeah,
Yeah.
All right, guys, going to give our scores.
Yeah.
yeah,
Moon, how many boxes out of 10?
10 boxes out of 10. No.
John?
9.5 boxes out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it 9.5 boxes out of 10. All right, guys, make sure to like, subscribe, check out our socials, and we'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.